Welcome to Battle Companies Season 1 Episode 3. Before we get into the battle reports, I will go over today's scenario and any changes that has been made to the warbands fighting in this first battle. The updates for the other warbands will precede the second battle. Here we can see the scoreboard from the last round. The scenario for round 3 will be Stand Your Ground. In the middle of the board there should be a hill that needs defending. The defender will deploy on the hill and the attacker will deploy at least 6 inches away from the hill. The game will last until one battle company has been reduced to 25% of its starting models. And the winner of the scenario is the battle company that has the most models on the hill when the game is finished. Special rules: models on the hill do not need to take courage tests for being broken. The defenders of this scenario will be the Dead of Dunharrow. Updates for the warband: Caspar still has an arm wound and cannot carry a shield, and as well as he has a old battle wound that he received in the last battle. This is the board that we are playing on, and as you can see at the hill in the middle, the army of the dead has deployed. The attackers in this scenario will be the dwarves. Gando received a old battle wound in the last scenario, but he rolled successfully and can join this fight. For other updates, Trubo is become a ranger. He has enough experience to level up and got the Baruch Kazad special rule, which means he will re-roll to wound rolls of a 1 against orcs and goblin models. That will not have effect in this game. And this is the final deployment. Trubo and an archer over here, Gando and Kaza over here with their retinue of warriors. Let's begin the battle. In the first round, the army of the dead got priority and moved to one side of the hill to negate the oncoming dwarves from behind. The dwarves moved up to engage the Dead of Dunharrow, and the archers stood still to get some shots off. In the shooting phase, the dwarves are shooting at Galad, needing an in-the-way roll for the hill crest. They stood still, so they need 4s to hit. 1 hit. 4+ to clear the hill. They do! Trubo needs 6s by 4s to wound Galad. And he gets a 6. Does he get a 4? No, but he will use a point of might to get the 4 and wound Galad. Fate roll? No, Galad is dead early. The dwarves got priority and charged into the undead horde. The dwarven bowmen moved up because they didn't have any valid targets. Over here, Gando is fighting Arthur, and Gando gets a 4. Arthur gets a 4. The dwarves have the higher fight, so they will win the combat. Needing 6s to kill. No. The dwarf with the 2-handed axe will fight a warrior of the dead, and the dwarf gets 5. The warrior of the dead gets a 2. +1 to wound, so 5 up. No. Kaza versus Kaspar. Kaspar gets a 3. And Kaza gets a 2. 5s to kill? No. And the last fight, the dwarf with the shield gets 3. And the warrior of the dead gets 6, winning the fight. 5s to kill? No. The army of the dead got priority and engaged the dwarves. This dwarf tried to charge in here, but failed his courage test. The dwarf archers moved up to be able to engage the next turn. Gando against a dead spearman. Gando gets a 5 and the spearman gets a 3. Needing 6s to kill, gets a 3. This fight, The dwarf gets a 2. The warrior of the dead gets a 5, winning the combat. 5s to kill? No. Kaspar against Kaza. Kaspar gets a 3. And Kaza gets 2. 5s to kill? 4. He will use a point of might to turn that into a 5 and cause a wound on Kaza. Fate points. Saves. The last fight over here. The dead gets a 5. And the dwarf gets a 4. 5s to kill? He does. So he's dead. The dwarves got priority, but 2 of them failed their courage tests, so they couldn't charge this turn. Starting from the left, the warrior of the dead gets a 6, and the dwarf gets a 4. 5s to kill? No. The next fight, the warrior of the dead, or Kaspar as his name is, gets a 1, and the dwarf gets a 3, winning the fight. 6s to kill? Oh no. Kaza will use his point of might to turn this into a 6 and a wound on Kaspar. Fate roll? He saves. Trubo against a warrior of the dead. Trubo gets a 2 and the warrior of the dead gets... Oh, cocked die. He gets a 3. 5s to kill? 6. Fate roll. No, Trubo is dead. And the last fight, the dwarf gets a 6. And the warrior of the dead gets a 3. 6s to kill. And he gets it. And Arthur don't have any more fate points, so he is dead. The warriors of the dead got priority and charged in, but the dwarves countered and trapped 2 of their models. We'll see how this turns out. We will start with the combat on the left, which is 2 dwarves with 2-handed weapons against a spearman of the dead. And the spearman of the dead gets a 6, and the dwarves get also 6, but -1 because of the 2-handed weapon, so they lose. 5s to kill the dwarf, and he gets it. 1 dwarf is dead. This means that Kaspar is no longer trapped and will do his combat next. Kaspar gets a 3. Gando, 5, and Kaza gets a 2. 6s to kill, and they get a 6. Kaspar is out of fate, so he is dead. And the last fight, the dwarf gets a 3, and the warrior of the dead gets a 2. 6s to kill? No. This round the dwarf got priority and trapped 1 of the warrior of the dead over here and engaged over here as well. Starting with this fight, the dwarf gets a 1, and the army of the dead guy gets a 4, winning the fight. 5s to kill? No. Now it's this fight, and the dead guy gets a 6, which he needed. Gando gets a 2, Kaza gets a 4, and the last dwarf gets a 4, which means they have lost the battle. Or the fight, rather. But the army of the dead guy will try to kill this dwarf and needs a 5+. No. Priority went to the army of the dead, and they engaged the dwarves as best they could, but the dwarves countered, and now it's 2 against 1 in each fight. The first fight, the dead guy gets a 4, and Gando gets a 3, Kaza gets a 5, winning the fight. Needing 6s to kill, and they get it, so this spearman is dead. And the last fight, the dead guy gets a 3, and the dwarves get a 5, winning the fight. 6s on the red die? No. And 5+ on the blue one? No. As the army of the dead has lost over 75% of their battle company, the game is concluded, which means the dwarves won the fights with 4 models to 1 on the hill. The defenders of the second battle will be the Moria goblins. Gash still has an arm wound and will not be carrying a shield in this battle. For reinforcements, the Moria goblins got an additional goblin with shield and a prowler with a 2-handed weapon and throwing daggers. The goblins have deployed on the hill, ready to defend it against the Warg Riders. The Warg Riders are the attackers and are ready to assault the hill. They are fighting at full strength and recruited 2 wargs for their battle company. Now, the Warg Riders have deployed. Snugug the sergeant and a Warg Rider with shield and a warg over here. Arzet the ranged sergeant with 2 wargs over here. Drozorg the army leader with a warg and a Warg Rider with throwing spear over here. Drozorg wargs have more points than the Moria goblins, so Sork's orcs will get a single reroll during the battle. Moria got priority and adjusted their position to be able to receive the Warg Riders next turn. The Warg Riders moved closer to be able to charge next turn, but are over 5 inches away so that they don't get charged in return. Shooting phase. The Prowler will throw his daggers at the Warg that is approaching. Needing 4s to hit, and he misses. 1 Goblin Archer will shoot at Arzet. Needing 5s to hit, and he hits. Warg or Rider hits the Warg. 5s to kill? No. This Archer will shoot at the Warg Rider with throwing spear. Needing 5s to hit, misses. The last Archer will shoot at the Warg approaching from this side. Needing 5s to hit, misses. Arzet will return fire at the Spearman located over there. He moved, so we need 6s to hit, misses. The Warg Riders got priority and charged in on all fronts. The Warg Rider with throwing spear will throw a spear on his way in, needing a 5 to hit. The lines have clashed and the fight is on. Everyone is engaged and we will start with the fight phase. Starting over here, Sork will be shielding. He sets the bar at 1. Snugug responds and gets a 4, winning the combat. Sork is knocked prone, so Snugug gets 4 attacks, needing 5s to kill. And he gets 2 5s. This means that Sork is dead because he doesn't have enough wounds or fate points to save him. In the next fight, we have 2 goblins fighting a Warg Rider. The goblins roll first, setting the bar at 1. Terrible start for the goblins. The Warg Rider gets a 3. The goblin is knocked prone, and the Warg Rider needs 5s to kill. And he gets it. Next we have a Warg against the Goblin. The Goblin sets the bar at a 6. The Warg gets 4, needing 5s to kill. And he do! Next fight is a Warg against the Spearman. The Warg gets 6. And the Spearman gets a 2. The Warg needs 4s to kill. And doesn't get it. Next we have Arzet versus a Prowler and a Bowman. Arzet sets the bar at a 5. The Prowler is the green die and they get a 4. They are knocked prone and Arzet is using his first double attack on the Prowler, needing 4s to kill. And he get it. Next attack goes on the Bowman and he's also dead. Here we have Drozorg and a Warg fighting 2 goblins. The Warg Riders get 5. And the goblins also 5. The Warg Riders would win on fight value, but Rark is in this combat and he will use a point of might to get a 6. They are trying to wound Drozorg and they need 5s to kill. Nothing. One Warg Rider against Gash and a Bowman. The Warg Rider gets a 6. This means he automatically wins the combat because of his higher fight value. The first attack will go on Gash, needing 4s. 1 wound. Gash will use his fate points and he saves. The second attack will also go on Gash and he doesn't get it. Last combat is 1 Warg against 2 goblins and the Warg gets 3 and the goblins get 4, needing 5s to kill the Warg. No. This was a brutal turn for the Moria goblins, losing 4 models. The Warg Riders only lost 1. Priority went to the Warg Riders, but Gash is using a point of might to call a heroic move and with me. That will make all the goblins move first. But Arzet is using his point of might to counter that. So let's have a roll-off. 4 to 6, it goes to the Warg Riders. It goes to the goblins. That was really an important heroic move, which means everyone is engaged and the Warg Riders do not get any charge bonuses. Starting over here, the goblin sets the bar at a 2, and the Warg Rider gets also 2, but wins on fight value. 1 strike only, needing 4s to kill. No. Next combat, the goblin gets a 2, and the Warg Rider gets 5, needing 4s to kill. No. The next fight, the goblin gets 3, and the Warg 6, 5s to kill. He get it. So he's dead. Arzet versus a goblin. Arzet sets the bar at a 3 and the goblins get 6. Going for the rider, needing 5 or 6. No. The Rark is fighting a Warg and the Rark gets 3 and the Warg 6. 5s to kill. He get it. Fate roll. No. Rark is a gunner. Drozorg against an archer. Drozorg gets 6, which means he will win the combat automatically. 4s to kill. Oh, that's a cocked die. Roll again. No! Gash with the spear support against a Warg Rider with throwing spear. Gash and the goblin gets 4. And the Warg Rider gets a 6. Needing 4s to kill. He get it! Gash is out of fate, so he's just dead. The last combat over here, the Warg gets a 5 and the goblin a 2. 4s to kill? No. The goblins are having a tough time, having lost over 50% of their company. They do not need to take courage test as they have the hill. Priority went to the goblins, but Snuggug is using a point of might to call a heroic move and with me. There is no might left on the Moria side, so this movement goes directly to the Warg Riders. The Warg Riders charged all the remaining goblins. This one Warg Rider will throw his spear, needing a 5 up. He misses. Combat phase. This is not looking good for the goblins. Over here we have Snuggug against the goblin. Snuggug gets a 6 and the goblin can't do anything with that. He is knocked prone and Snuggug needs 4s to kill him. And he get it with a 6. In this fight, the goblin sets the bar at a 6. Nice roll. The Warg Rider and the Warg is up next and they get also 6, which means they win the fight. The goblin is knocked prone, 4s to kill. Yeah, he's super dead. Arzet against a goblin. The goblin sets the bar at 1 and has automatically lost the combat. 4 attacks from Arzet, needing 4s to kill. And gets a 4, but barely. Drozorg and the Warg against a Moria archer. The archer gets 4, and the Warg Riders, oh, they lost with big numbers. The goblin tries to wound the enemy leader, needing a 5 up. Nothing. Over here, the goblin sets the bar at a 1 and loses the battle automatically. 4 attacks from the Warg Rider, needing force. Yeah, he is dead. The last fight, the goblin sets the bar. 5, and the Warg 2. 5s to kill. Nothing. The goblins have been reduced to under 25% of their starting numbers, so the scenario ends here. And the Warg Riders are victorious. Congratulations.
Here we have the scoreboard. This is it for now. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video and found it helpful, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to our channel for more exciting content like this. By subscribing, you'll stay up to date with our latest videos and be a part of our growing community. We appreciate your support and it encourages us to create more valuable content. So go ahead, hit the like and subscribe buttons, and we'll see you in the next video.